Men show love this way, but they're doing it wrong. Does anyone remember the line from the movie Mr. Mom, You're Doing It Wrong? Well, that's what we're going to dive into today. Is one of the primary love languages most men speak, and I do believe it's one of the reasons why a lot of relationships don't go to a deeper sense of love because of this. So let's dive into this. Emotional intimacy or a lack of emotional intimacy is why many relationships end or fail. Let me repeat that. Emotional intimacy or the lack thereof is why most relationships end or fail. I believe most couples do a very weak job developing true emotional intimacy. And while most divorces cite money or physical intimacy as the primary problem, it actually goes much deeper than that. So, to understand emotional intimacy, I think it would be really valuable for many human beings to study some of the concepts in the book, The Five Love Languages. The Five Love Languages. And by the way, there's some updates to the five love languages. I did a video a few weeks back called The 9 Love Languages, but there's two additional love languages that are expressed in the book or outside of the book. But the 5 primary love languages are words of affirmation, or if you're a Leo like myself, it's words of adoration, physical touch, quality time, acts of service, and gifts. So, if you've studied any of this, you probably have examined your own love language. How do you give and receive love? And when we think of love, we oftentimes think of how we'd like to receive it, but we should also examine how we give it. And what men often do, it seems to be, and this isn't an absolute, this is just an observation on my part, is a lot of men and women give love through the acts of service, the acts of doing something for another human being. Doing something for another human being. Now, for some people, they talk about how men take out the trash. That's an act of service. Or they make sure that there's your air and your tires are complete. That's an act of service. Certainly, a woman's act of service, at least traditionally, has been maybe cooking for the man or cleaning for the man. But we have outgrown the traditional narratives of what does it mean to be of service to another human being. But when we think of service, we oftentimes think of doing. And in the early stages of dating, the doing is the entertainment of each other. The entertainment of each other, or mostly the expectation that men are supposed to entertain women. It's a man's job to plan the dates and make her feel, love through the planning of dates. That's how a man shows leadership. And if you notice, I'm saying that with a bit of a smirk in my mouth, because while certainly that demonstrates some level of service to another human being, the entertaining of each other and being of a service to one another oftentimes is I'm going to say, the weakest form of relationship. Now, let me explain why I say it's the weakest form. While it's a foundational piece and it's important to be of service to one another in relationship, what I'm talking about the weakest is because while from a foundational place, doing for another is critically important, what human beings are thirsty for is true emotional connection. Now, let me reframe that. Emotionally mature people are seeking true emotional connection. Now, when I talk about emotional maturity, you may not be familiar with my chart. By the way, this is not a fact, and please forgive the glare. Emotional maturity and relationship skills. I believe roughly 20% of the population has clinical issues when it comes to their capacity of relationship skills and their emotional maturity. And while over here I say 20% of the population is rather healthy, I'm being very generous with that number. Most human beings are rather dysfunctional in their emotional maturity and in their relationship skills. And what I mean by dysfunctional is many human beings oftentimes get attached to an unhealthy partner, or some human beings avoid love from a person. Some human beings have weak communication skills. Some human beings have even what's known as a violent communication skills. And if you're not familiar with the book, Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg, I'd highly recommend checking this out. So why am I hyper focusing on relationship skills, emotional maturity, and acts of service? Okay. Why I'm hyper focusing on this is because of the 5 love languages, I believe it's imperative. And if you want to Google the 7 love languages or watch my video on the 9 love languages I did a few days back, you might want to examine, I believe a healthy relationship covers all of the bases. This is what a healthy relationship does, particularly in the area of expressing one's feelings about the person they're in relationship with. And now in a moment, I'm going to give you a tool to use for any future relationship to help develop emotional intimacy with a partner. But verbal expression about one's feelings takes courage. You have to be willing to overcome your fears. Now, when I say about verbal expression, it's not just about the feelings you have about another person, but it's also recognizing where you might be misaligned with one another, where your past hurts and pains might cause the inability to go deeper, and certainly any emotional trauma a human being experienced in their childhood or their adult life. You know, recently I've been watching the show How I Met Your Mother. And if anyone's ever watched that show, there's a character, Barney, who is the quintessential player, and he is the quintessential commitment phobe. And while they give you glimpses as to where this behavior stems from, it's very clear that in his childhood, he experienced some trauma or micro traumas that made him fearful. In fact, the other character, Robin, is also a commitment phobe. And while I haven't gotten far enough in the show to know where that trauma may stem from, this is a very common experience for most human beings, is that their desire for relationship doesn't exceed their fear, their past hurts, the misalignment or doubts they might feel about being in a fully committed relationship. Now, I'm talking about a fully committed relationship because, folks, many of you are experiencing what's known as a casual relationship, And right now, I'm going to talk about the 3 levels of commitment. Now, the first level of commitment is the agreement to monogamy and exclusivity. If 2 people are having physical intimacy with one another, I highly encourage the agreement to monogamy, meaning not have sex with other people. And I encourage exclusivity, meaning there is a commitment to one another that you won't go actively looking for somebody because this person is a placeholder in your life. Sadly, many human beings put people in the placeholder category. They are just holding space. They're spending time with this person. They're getting companionship, connection, and physical sex as a placeholder. And we witness this, that probably the majority of relationships out there of those people who are not married are in casual relationships. The second level of commitment is teamwork with one another, being teams with one another. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a second. But do you operate as a team? Do you help each other in your daily lives as teammates with one another? And that's certainly getting to a more serious level of commitment. The third level of commitment is all in. My desire for this person exceeds my fears, my past hurts and pains, our misalignment, and any doubts I have about this person. I'm all in. Damn the torpedoes, I'm going to burn the bridges, burn the boats with this person. And very few couples actually ever reach that level outside of marriage. And even in marriage, many people don't even experience that true all-in experience. So men show love in the act of service, which is a way of demonstrating love. A lot of men, this is the way they've been conditioned, and why it's wrong is that one of the fundamental challenges that most boys experience growing up, and this is true for the baby boomers and Gen Xers, is we were taught to stuff our emotions, stuff our feelings. Violence equals masculinity. And because of that, most men don't have a very highly attuned emotional capacity to be expressive. Okay. So they've adopted this act of service as their way to demonstrate love. And while I said earlier that's a foundational piece, when you look at probably 70% of the divorces out there, it's because there's a lack of emotional intimacy in the relationship, particularly in the expressing of one another. Now, this title says men show love this way. Let's think of the word love and let's think of I love you. Like when you say I love you to another human being, what does that mean to you? What is the meaning behind those words? And I have a short little description of that. And I love you means, at least the way I hope to express this in any future relationship, is I'm here. You matter. We are important. I've got your back. I'm not going anywhere and I only want you. I'm here. I'm present to this experience. I'm not stuck in a past relation. I'm not stuck pining over a past relationship. I'm not thinking of an exit plan with this relationship. I am present to this experience. How many of you can say that you have genuinely been present to the experience that you're in? Maybe right now, maybe you're not present. Maybe you're hoping for something to change with this person. Being present is about accepting what is right now. And I see a lot of human beings do a poor job at this. You matter. You know, I liked something I heard from Chris Rock recently, or I was watching an old video of his, and he goes, relationships are in the service business. We serve the other human being. Actually, I believe two people should put each other up on a pedestal, meaning you matter. You are commensurate to how I feel about myself. This is how we develop trust with another human being, is treating someone with equal. Now, I know a lot of those of us in midlife, and by the way, most of my audience is midlife, which is after baby making years and before retirement. They put their children at a superior level than the person that they're dating. And I'm here to say the minute two people have physical intimacy with one another, it begs the invitation to put that person commensurately important as you would anyone else in your life. But you see, sadly, many human beings don't do that. They don't put that person at a level of importance. Now, some people over exaggerate the importance of a relationship and they discount the other people in their life. I'm not remotely suggesting that. But it's rather important, I believe, if you want to reach this all-in level of commitment, is treat that person with equal importance as you might anyone else important in your life. Make them matter. The we are important part of I love you. We are important. The relationship is a separate container. There is a you, there's a me, and then there's a collective we. And treating the relationship in that collective we requires nurturing that relationship outside of the acts of service. It requires quality time. It requires physical touch. And certainly romance and other things are critically important to the health of emotional intimacy in a relationship. And I've got your back. That means I'm going to be there and support you when things are down. See, today's relationships are very disposable. They don't actually go in with a level of commitment that says, I've got your back, and then also to say, I'm not going anywhere. That means I'm fully committed to this relationship, and I only want you. With all of the distractions from social media and people sliding into your DMs, as I've heard the younger generation say, I only want you. See, this is truly an expression of love. So what can you do to shift the narrative if men are doing this wrong? And by the way, they're not doing it wrong. I'm just saying that a little tongue in cheek. How do we get more emotional intimacy out of this relationship we're in? Well, I'm going to share with you a tool that you could certainly adopt going forward. And I'm a big believer of couples on a regular basis, if not a daily basis, to show attention, affection, and appreciation for your partner. Attention, affection, and appreciation. Attention means spend time to be present with one another. In a physical sense, give some level of affection, but more importantly, I'm inviting you all to do the following. Each day within your relationship, every time you're physically present with one another, I invite you to share three to five things that you appreciate about your partner. 3 to 5 things that you appreciate about your partner. Sit down and make this a daily practice to show appreciation for one another. I appreciated the way you helped me with the groceries when we got back from the farmer's market. I appreciate that you are present whenever we sit and talk to one another. I appreciate the kindness and care you always demonstrate with me. Start expressing appreciation for one another. Gratitude and appreciation is one of the most powerful, highest forms of love. And yet, so few couples talk to each other at a true heart-centered level. Start expressing what you appreciate about one another. Make it a practice. I was in a relationship with a woman some years ago that we did this every night before we went to bed when we were together, is to express appreciation for one another. Now, on some level, it can become redundant, okay? And you have to be mindful. Are you really speaking from the heart, or is this just rote? In other words, is it just mechanical? I'm inviting you to go deeper than the mechanical. And so I want to include 2 other things that you can share when you're sharing appreciation for one another, and add to that 3 to 5 things you admire about this person. What qualities do you admire about them? What behaviors do you admire? What habits do you admire? And you can even take that a step further. And what do you respect about this person you're with? I think so few couples make this part of their daily practice because they're so focused on the entertainment of doing for one another. They're so focused on the act of service instead of really connecting at a heart-centered level. And I also believe couples should start sharing their complement one another from a physical perspective. I know many people have a hard time receiving love. This is one of the reasons why relationships don't flourish, because they have a hard time receiving from another person. Because the fear of abandonment, the fear of enmeshment, the fear of entanglement, the fear of loss, fear and a lack of being individually whole is one of the primary reasons why relationships don't ever get to that juicy, delicious, healthy, happy relationship I talk about in many of my videos, because we believe that attachment to another human being is love. When you're attached to another human being, oftentimes from an insecure place versus a secure place where there is genuine care for the other human being without attachment to an outcome. And yet, sadly, very few couples actually do the necessary work to build real intimacy with one another, to overcome the threshold barriers that oftentimes block love in relationship. And so they hyper focus on what they do best. Men hyper focus on acts of service because maybe that's what they do best. But I'm here to encourage everyone to go much deeper than the surface. And if you're frustrated, ladies, because I'm speaking to you and you're saying to yourself, why aren't men doing this? That's because all of these books behind me, 90% of them are purchased by women. They're not purchased by men. Men just want to know how to meet women. Women want to know how to make a relationship work. And yet many of you ladies have duct tape over your mouth. In other words, you learn this, but you don't apply it. Like, what's the point of learning all of this if you don't apply it, if you've got duct tape over your mouth? And by the way, folks, if you haven't read my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Help, and Spiritual Work, all the books I recommend are listed below, okay? Chapter 1, Speak Your Truth. Do it with kindness. But chapter 9, more importantly, if it's sincere and from the heart, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. By the way, in the show notes of Jonathan Recommend Books, I'm here to encourage everyone to step into their power, to step into their sovereignty, and make a stand for what you want. Make a stand for love beyond the traditional expectations we've been all indoctrinated with, including the narrative that chemistry equals relationship success. Compatibility equals relationship success. Shared values equals relationship success. Lifestyles that are blendable, and most importantly, emotional maturity. And I will tell you that the average human has weak skills in this area. So take all the books I recommend and start applying what you're learning in your next relationship. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. I do my best to read all the comments in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. You can join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. You can get all the books I recommend. You can follow me on Instagram and get my dating vows listed below. All right. For those who know my live format, it's time for Q&A. If you have a question in the chat box, write the word question, then post the question there after. Or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. There's a little $ in the chat box. All the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Asley. That's a picture of him right there. He's my son who passed away over 5 years ago, coming up on 6 years ago now. In his honor, we donate to causes like the Hoffman Process Insight Institute and scholarships to coaching as well. And our goal today is $50. So I'd appreciate some love. And if you want to join the hot seat live, here's a link to talk to me live while we're recording this broadcast. So while we're waiting for questions, I have a personal share. Ladies, you all complain about there are no good men out there. There are no quality men. There are no good men out there. So it's kind of interesting to me that I'm actually in the dating marketplace. I'm on apps like Hinge and Bumble and Match.com and even one called Millionaire Match, although I'm not currently a paying member on that site. And Hinge is one that I thought was a really good quality site. In other words, it had good curated information. So I've had, and by the way, within Hinge, you can like someone's photograph. So I would say in the last 2 weeks, I've had probably almost 10 women like a photograph in the last week. So I write them and I use my NICE method. I use their name. I ask a question, I give a compliment, or by the way, name, inquisitive, compliment, and I use some sort of energy, emoji, emotion. Do you know what's happening right now? Crickets. Ladies, stop complaining there are no good men out there if you're not going to converse with the men who initiate. Because you don't know which one might be a good quality person. I'd like to think I'm a good catch. I don't know. Believe me, I have flaws and insecurities, so I'm not perfect by any stretch of the means. But if you want a quality guy, then you better make the effort the minute and again, you initiated it. And then I respond, and then it's crickets. So I'm just saying that FYI for those of you out there. All right. We've got our first question of the day. Magic Entertainer says, what do you think of that? What do you think of that? Is it better to be alone with high standards than settle just to be with someone? Great question. So first off, we're not alone. You may not be partnered with someone, but you're not alone. Hopefully you have friends and family and loved ones in your life. Now, High standards could mean being too picky. High standards might mean you set the bar so high nobody can reach it. Most couples don't recognize that couples have differences. It's very rare to find someone fully aligned with you. It's very rare. So overcoming those threshold barriers, those differences, requires not to settle, but settle down from high expectations. So I would prefer you just have standards, not high standards, but standards, some base standards. What's a base standard? Person's actions match their words. That would be a good base standard. Another good base standard, you're with someone who has victor consciousness versus victim consciousness. That's a standard. Somebody who knows how to, what I call fight fair. They act, when there's differences, they actively listen and participate and acknowledge, and they don't have to be right. That's one of my standards. There's a level of empathy from the other person, and empathy isn't just about feeling someone else's feelings, but empathy is also being aware of one's own feelings. And lastly, transparency. Those are 5 of the standards that are most important to me. Is your actions match your words? You have victor consciousness. You know how to fight fair. You have a level of empathy and transparency. Now, I've noticed people that have standards, they're so fucking high. It's like climbing to the room to the highest, climbing to the highest room of the tallest tower. Or is that how it goes? I'm like, some of you guys have such ridiculous standards. No person's ever going to meet that. So my point is just create some base standards and operate from that premise. Is that okay? Does that help, Magic Entertainer? I hope it does. Debbie wants to let everyone know it's raining great men. It's raining great men. It's raining great men. Exactly. If we focus on what is possible versus what we're experiencing. Folks, I recognize it's a shit show out there from a dating perspective. And I say it tongue in cheek, and it's rather dysfunctional. It's because human beings are rather dysfunctional. And I actually laugh at the absurdity of it all, just because I think we human beings are really some really fickle, fucked up people. I say it tongue in cheek, though, because I believe the journey is to uncover who you really are at a heart center level. And I oftentimes laugh at my egoic way of treating life. Anyway, so it's raining great men. Janie X is in the house, and she gave us a $10 super sticker. Thank you, Janie X, for the love. Question: when someone initiates with a letter to me on a dating app, if I don't their looks, should I respond and say what, or should I not respond at all? I think you mean to say if you're not attracted to this person. So someone initiated to you and they're not your type, if you will. Should you respond? You know, this is the $64,000 question. I've always believed that if someone walked up to you at the grocery store and said hi, would you say hi back? I think you would certainly say hi back. So then how rude would it be if someone says hi to you and you just turn and walk away? It's kind of the same with the dating apps. So I endeavor to always acknowledge people's efforts and just let them know I'm not interested. But it gets exhausting too when you have dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of people, saying hi to you. I think we only have a capacity to do so much. So you have to do what's right for you. Do what's good karma for you. Okay. Thank you so much for the $10 super sticker. I really appreciate it. Magic Entertainer comes back. Then there's a intuition. And do I talk to people online but don't need to meet someone to know that they're not the right person? I'm a big believer. I believe our dating profiles are a reflection of energy. And I believe when you're truly attuned to who you are, you can recognize the energy of another person. I believe that's possible for people who have a highly intuitive sense of themselves. But I also believe in being open to any possibility. So it's a dance between being open to all possibilities and trusting your intuition. And I think very few people have a highly attuned intuition system. So you have to do, and maybe by saying yes to the wrong person, you'll develop a higher intuition. Okay. Ariel's in the house. How do I slow down a man who wants to marry me when we just met a month ago? He is from Iran. How do I slow a person down? Obviously, he is in a state of lust or limerence. Let me reframe that. Most likely, he's in a state of lust or limerence. How do you slow a person down? You set boundaries. What are boundaries? What's okay and what's not okay for you? So if someone is overgiving, I want you to imagine if you are overgiving. If you are overgiving to someone, in other words, it's the investment in each other is lopsided. I think it's important to express yourself, express that this makes you feel uncomfortable, and then make a request. This makes me feel uncomfortable. I do not know you well enough to talk about marriage at this point. Would it be okay if we take that conversation off the table until we've built real trust with one another? That would be one way of addressing that by expressing yourself from a very heart-centered way. Okay? That would be my suggestion. All right, let's keep going. Victoria's in the house. How do I develop a relationship with someone who comes in and out, also ghosts from time to time? Why do you want a relationship with a person who comes in and out and ghosts? That to me is unhealthy behavior. So why would you want to be with someone that demonstrates unhealthy behavior? Victoria, answer me that question. Tell me why you want to be with someone. I know you're going to say, oh my God, Jonathan, he's so amazing. He's so wonderful. He checks all the boxes. Let me tell you something. Character is demonstrated through consistent actions. That's what, to me, one of the fundamentals of character is your actions consistently match your words. If he's inconsistent, why do you want to be in relationship with them? I suspect you have an unhealthy attachment with this person, and you may want to examine that. Okay? And schedule a discovery call with me. All right, let's keep going here. Patricia says dating apps never use their own photo and quit a few are already married or in a relationship. Yes, there is a small percentage of people in the dating marketplace that are either married, in a relationship with someone else, and they're using dating apps for hooking up. I would venture to say roughly about maybe 20% fit that narrative, but I don't believe it's the majority. I think it's still a minority. Okay. Linda says, I appreciate your advice. Direct communication. I was surprised to hear females are not replying to you. Yeah, you ladies bitch and complain, and yet your actions demonstrate just as much in flakiness as men. So stop. By the way, I'm only here to acknowledge that men are crappy at the dating process, just like women are crap. Let me reframe that. Women are just as crappy as the dating process as men. That's all I wanted to acknowledge there. Ariel says, thank you for your advice. Always good advice. He flew down from Seattle to Houston to see me, bought a house to move here. He's moving down next week to be near me. He wants marriage with me. Interesting. This is a man you barely know wants this. That's rather surprising. You know, just watch the movie Tinder Swindler and watch, before you get too involved with this person. T says, your mantra is you believe it and then you see it. What do you do if each and single fibers in your body screams, it's just not true? Because my experience has been trauma, tears, and loneliness. So if your experience is trauma, tears, and loneliness, it would be highly recommended that you heal those traumas, tears, and loneliness before you engage in relationship with another human being, because you're going to take those fears and possibly sabotage a potentially good relationship. So I would do the inner work to heal from that. That would be my recommendation. Hey, does anyone want to join the hot seat with me live? You can ask a question. I just posted a link right there. It'd be fun to have someone to bounce off of in this conversation as well. Bum, 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 bum. Power of Chi just posted, if communicating your boundaries to him doesn't work, then he will have to join the block party. Blocking that person. That's funny. Block party. Well, we have a bashful group tonight today. It'd be fun to have some interaction, folks. Post a comment. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Post a question and write the word question and post the question there after. Or purchase a super sticker, super chat. I'd like to have some conversation here. Otherwise, we're going to end our broadcast rather early today. Okay? Unless there's something wrong with the chat box. Can someone write something so I know that it's working? Maybe something happened. I just noticed a lot of people just got bumped off. So maybe something's happening in the world. Well, okay. I'm all about taking time. I'm all about Power of Chi just gave us a smiley face. Okay, so it looks like the chat. Okay, Jill Batista says, I hear you. Okay, good, good, good. Well, we need some feedback here. Okay, we need some feedback. We need some conversation. You know, it occurs to me that most couples have not learned how to be emotionally expressive. And it's one of the reasons why I recommend reading the book Emotional Intimacy by Robert Masters. If you want to develop a stronger relationship with someone, maybe you might want to learn get a better sense of what emotional intimacy is. That's my recommendation anyway. All right, looks like we have a bashful group tonight. Today. We're going to end a little early for Saturday. I'm going to go for a walk. Folks, I want you to know how much I appreciate you, how much I appreciate all your love and your kindness. I want you to know, oh, wait, we have someone that's joining us. Yay. Vanessa.
Yes. Hi, how are you?
I can't hear you, and there's an echo.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Can you speak up?
Can you hear me?
You know what? We can't hear you at all, and there's an echo. That means you have an app open in the background regarding this.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for trying. I appreciate it.
Can you hear me or no?
No, I can barely hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Is it better now?
Keep going.
Okay. So my question, well, I think more I need just sense talked into
I can
me.
barely hear you.
Okay. Maybe if I take you off speaker. Can
You need to close out
any
any other app you have going right now.
I did. I cleared everything. I don't know why it's not working. Can you hear me?
Scream, do me a favor, scream so I can hear you, because I mean, you're so faint, it's just barely recognizable. What's your question? Oh, now she's frozen. Well, we tried, Vanessa. Well, we tried with her. Thanks so much. I appreciate that. I know some of you else could hear her, but I could barely hear her, so I wouldn't be able to recognize what she was saying. So if she wants to jump back on, we can try. I'll stay on for just one more minute. Seems like we have a bashful group today. I'm a little bit surprised. Usually we have a lot of comments, a lot of questions posted in the chat box, but okay, here we go. Cheryl has popped in. I've had 3 dates with the man. He says he's looking for the real deal. Do I just stay in observation mode to see his true intentions? Absolutely. You know, what is the real deal? What does commitment look like for him? What does a relationship look like for him? See, most human beings are rather clueless as to what they want. So you have to observe their actions, because just remember, We men are driven oftentimes physically through sex. Okay, but to learn his real intentions requires doing social activities, hobbies, mutual interests, spending time with family and friends, even traveling together can get a sense of who a person is. So great question. I would observe his intentions. I would agree. Ariel's back in the house. She says, my Iran guy said in his culture, there is no dating, but marriages are mostly arranged. He is a nice, genuine, successful man. First time I need to slow someone down. Yes, it is very typical. I'm assuming you haven't had sex with him yet. So he's anxious to have physical intimacy with him, but just recognize that you do not know this person, even though you've only spent a month. You do not know the way he behaves. Most likely you don't know much about his past. You have no connections to other people that know him. You have no, most likely you have no family members to be protective of you. I would be highly suspect jumping in with somebody that you barely know, okay? Even though that's their tradition. Panama Dude says, could you tell what if the aspects that you mentioned was at play to end your relationships? Greetings. You know, folks, my relationship, I think we were both very curious about one another, and we decided to jump in probably quicker than most because of the distance. We decided to, because there was distance, we accelerated the getting to know you process, and we moved in together. And we actually lived together really well with one another. It just turned out that we were two people in two different places in our lives. She had different goals and aspirations, and I had different goals and aspirations. And while we tried to blend a little bit together, we recognized that we were both in two different places. And she recognized it before me. And she did the, if it's not working for one, it's really not working for each other. And we did a very conscious uncoupling. And I'm very grateful for so many of the gifts this person brought into my life. And so to answer your question, you know, what was at play? Nothing. We did everything right. We did everything right. We were honest. We were honest with each other. We were transparent with one another. Love is an intangible. That piece of love is an intangible. That piece that says, I want all in with this person. That's an intangible. And to reach that level of intangible takes a lot of moving parts. And sometimes because it's an intangible, you don't know until you attempt. And that's why it's called dating. That's why it's a relationship, because we are trying, you know, the chances are most relationships don't work out. It takes two people wanting to go all in. And sometimes some people are incapable of going all in, or they don't want to go all in. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's why we experience. This is why life is a journey. It's an experience. It's not a destination. Let me repeat that. Life is a journey. It's an experience. It's not a destination. So I'm grateful for all the gifts. I believe she is grateful for all the gifts that came out of the relationship. And we decided to adjourn this relationship and move in two different directions. That's healthy. Everything about that is healthy. Again, when you can be in an absolute state of gratitude and you can look at the gifts that came from the experience, you're better prepared for maybe the next evolution or relationship in your life. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating? Please let me know if it is. I'd like to hear your thoughts on all this. Post a comment below. I'd like to hear what your thoughts about this video, this content. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos as well. And also, if you want to connect with me directly, there's links below. Schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. Join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. Get the books I recommend. Follow me on Instagram. Get my dating vows. All listed in the show notes, and it'll be in the first comment as well. All right, folks, I'm going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, giving myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love if that's okay. I'm asking you to turn to someone, a pet, a teddy bear, a pillow, and give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. I want to thank First off, I've got to give props to Debbie. You are excuse me, very loyal follower. I so appreciate you, and I just want to acknowledge that. Also, I want to give Rosa some props here as well. Thank you for the $10 super sticker. I really appreciate it. Magic Entertainer, Power of Chi, Patricia, Panama Duets, Crystal, Janie X, thank you. Mary, let's see, Gina, everyone, thanks for the love. You guys are great. Wishing you a super duper wonderful, fantastic day. Be well. Thanks. Bye now.